sustainability student here at UW Stevens Point. I'm getting my certificate in environmental ed and interpretation, and I'm excited to teach you all about squirrels today. So, to start, I have a sound for us all to listen to. Has anyone heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's just such a goofy, unique sound, which is one of the reasons I love squirrels. Does anybody here have negative feelings though when they hear that sound? Maybe you think it's kind of annoying, or maybe kind of alarming or scary? It's interesting. I know a lot of people that are annoyed with or scared of squirrels. I guess, so does anyone here have positive feelings? Maybe they think it's a really interesting sound, or maybe a goofy sound? Goofy? So we have a lot of...
Hi, folks.
Hi!
Come
on in.
So we have a lot of previously held beliefs about squirrels because we do live so close to them. And they are really found everywhere. They're found in our neighborhoods, in our cities, and in our more forested environments, such as Schmeeckle. A lot of people see squirrels as kind of these goofy, like cartoon-like characters. They're portrayed in a lot of different movies and such as our squirrel from Ice Age. He's always getting into a lot of terrible situations. He's so cute. Yeah. So I think a lot of people think of this character when they think of squirrels, but a lot of other people think of squirrels as kind of a nuisance or really annoying. My dad has a garden at home in Milwaukee, and squirrels always dig through his garden and dig up all his plants, so he thinks they're really annoying. He actually calls them tree rats. So does anyone here have a story about a squirrel? It could be a funny story, or it could be a bad story. Yeah.
I went fishing and I had a red squirrel that decided to wake me up. It was very nice.
Oh,
Very cute.
that's never fun. Does anyone else have a story?
Yeah, we had a squirrel right outside of the window at our building. It was just sitting outside the window, just staring us all down.
Yeah, they're very cool.
Saying hi.
Human places.
Cool. Cool. Hi.
That's so funny.
How? Do the same jacket.
Anybody else?
I was actually working at a veterinary one, so I actually saw a squirrel eating upside down.
If it's easy.
Oh, wow. That's funny. So we might have a lot of these kind of goofy, or maybe annoying stories related to squirrels. But even though we might have these previously held beliefs, they're actually incredibly important and complex creatures that have a lot of survival techniques and cool adaptations. And they also serve incredibly important roles in our ecosystem. So today we're going to go on a short walk in Sprightly and do some squirrel observations, see if we can note any of those activities that they're doing. And we'll also be learning today what kind of adaptations they have, and cool survival techniques, as well as their ecological importance. And we'll be participating in some activities along the way as well. But before we head out on our walk, I'm going to talk about some basics about our squirrels here in Schmeeckle, so that we know what to look for. So squirrels, as we know, are incredibly complex or abundant creatures in almost every ecosystem. So we find squirrels in our cities, in our neighborhoods, and in our forested environments. And this is because that they've adapted to live in so many different areas. There are over 200 species of squirrels in the world, and that includes squirrels that are tree squirrels, flying squirrels, and ground squirrels. Today we'll be focusing more on our tree squirrels, which is what we would most likely find here in Wisconsin, although we do have other types of squirrels. And they live on 6 out of the 7 continents in the world, so they can live in a variety of different conditions. So today there are 4 known types of squirrels here in Schmeeckle, and we are going to hopefully see 2 of them today. Our first type of squirrel is the most common here in Wisconsin. It's is a subspecies of gray squirrels, and they've adapted to have black fur in order to survive in our super cold winter environments. It helps them retain heat from the sun. Gray squirrels are quite a bit larger than a lot of our other species of tree squirrels, and they have super strong teeth that allows them to chew through really hard to eat things such as nuts, such as walnuts, acorns, and allows them to have that super diverse diet. This is likely the type of squirrel that you will find in your neighborhood, but they pretty much live everywhere here in Wisconsin. Our next type of squirrel is a little more rare, but we might see it today. It's the red squirrel. So, yeah, they're really cute. They can be distinguished from the gray squirrel because of their rusty red color. And they're also quite a bit smaller in size, so they're a little larger than a chicken. The reason that they're really hard to see is because they're super quick, because they're really small. They can also blend in with their environment better because of their brown color. And they also really don't prefer to live near humans. Our gray squirrels are a little more ambitious, a little more extroverted, and they are great living in human environments. But our red squirrels prefer to live in more forested or rural environments. Because of their smaller size, they also typically cannot chew through some of those really tough to eat nuts like acorns and walnuts. So they prefer to eat pine seeds and other seeds that are easier to chew. Our next type of squirrels that live in Schmeeckle you probably will not see today, or most likely will not. These are our flying squirrels. So we have our northern flying squirrel and our southern flying squirrel. The northern flying squirrel is similar to the southern, it's quite a bit larger, and also has more of a rust red color coat compared to the southern squirrel, which has a grayer, drabber colored coat. And the reason that we won't see them today is because they're nocturnal, which means that they are only awake during the night and they sleep during the day. But I just thought I'd mention them because they do live here in Schmeeckle.
They've been out a lot at the bird deck in the nighttime recently. People saw them on the candlelight hike night.
Cool. Did they see any flying? Oh wow, that's awesome.
I actually saw some like strong knockable.
Really? That is very cool. One thing that people don't really realize about them is they're actually not flying, they're gliding. So they don't have wings like birds. They aren't able to actually fly from the ground. What they do is they jump from tree branch to tree branch, and they can use like skin on their arms to glide through the air. So they're pretty cool creatures. Kind of hard to see again because they're only awake during the nighttime. Okay, so then I have a couple cool adaptations of squirrels that we're going to talk about before we head on our walk. Alright. A blonde squirrel terrorizing others. The blonde squirrel, there's another subspecies of gray squirrels. I think they're called like golden something squirrels, so it's probably a type of gray squirrel. It's interesting though. I haven't seen one here. That's cool. Oh, wow, that's really cool. So as we know, our tree squirrels particularly are incredible climbers. And the reason that they are is because of some adaptation that they have in their paws. So they have really sharp and small claws that allow them to grip the trunks of the tree and scale up the side really quickly. Another cool thing that their feet do is they turn 180 degrees. So unlike us, our human feet can only stand straight ahead, maybe we can turn them a little bit, but squirrels can flip them all the way back around, which allows them to scale the tree in a bunch of different directions. Go super quick. So I thought that was really cool. As I mentioned before, squirrels are incredibly adaptable. And one of the reasons for this is because of their super diverse diets. Because of their really strong teeth, they can eat so many different things, which includes nuts, seeds, berries, bugs, a lot of different things, which is why they can live in so many different environments. In addition, our most prominent feature on our squirrels are their bushy tails, which are super adorable, but not only that, they also serve, It is, yeah. And they actually, the tails are incredibly important for their survival Other question? It does, yeah. Their bushy tails can help them. And another cool thing, when it's snowing in the winter, you'll sometimes see they'll have their tail curled over their head, which they're actually using as cover, kind of like an umbrella. Yeah. So if you've ever seen that, that's what they're like. They do, yes. If it rains, sometimes you'll see their tails over their heads as well. Alright, so now that we've learned all these cool adaptations, and we've learned about the different types of squirrels here in Schmeeckle, we're going to go on a short walk on the Trail of Reflections, not super far, and we're going to do some squirrel observing. So as we walk, I want you to look out for any squirrel activity. Maybe look for some of those adaptations we talked about or some of those species we talked about. So I'm a little limited. I have these crutches, so we're going to walk them slow. But look out for squirrels while we're going. All right. Did anyone see any squirrels on our walk? I heard you did.
I did too.
No, looks like they're, yeah? Awesome. Looks like they're not super active today, but hopefully we'll see some. We're gonna spend a few minutes here. This is where I've had the most luck finding squirrels in Schmeeckle. So we're just gonna stay kind of on the trail here in this general area and just look for any squirrels up in the trees and on the ground. And then we'll kind of reconvene at the end, 1 second, and discuss what we saw. I do ask that you stay on the trail while we're observing. We don't want to get in the way of any animal habitat, whether that be a squirrel habitat or a different animal. So just stay on the trail and use your eyes to look for squirrels. We do have some binoculars to use as well. Yeah, do you have some questions?
Do you think they might be nearby the tree house? Because tree houses near trees and it's all, and it also might look like a tree to squirrels.
That's true. I have seen some over there. I haven't seen more there than over here though, so we're just gonna kind of keep this area so that we're all together. Yeah.
Why do you think those want to be?
Oh, I have an injury right now. All right. So, Katie, you want to pass out some binoculars?
Thank you.
And we can kind of share these because we don't have enough for everyone.
Might have to kind of move around a little bit. There's not a tree in the way. It's further out.
All right. Well, that's all right. Maybe we can reconvene and we'll reconvene and keep it going. If anyone wants to give their binoculars back to Katie.
I don't.
You can hang on to it for now. That's okay.
Oh, why? You want to do
Yeah, you can keep holding on to the binoculars for the trek too.
All right, so unfortunately we did not see any squirrel activity today, which is a bummer. Usually I have a lot of luck here, so maybe if you all come back another day, you might see some squirrels here. There's a lot of different squirrel habitats in this area, and right now they are pretty busy as it's becoming winter soon, and they're getting ready for the winter. So on our way back to the pavilion, we're going to make a few stops and learn about some survival tactics that squirrels have for the winter months upcoming here. As we're walking, I want you to look out specifically for squirrel habitats. Maybe that would be in the tree or on the ground.
tree?
Something that you think a squirrel might like to live in. So if y'all want to follow me. All right. So I'd like to know, does anyone here have a dream home or a dream home feature? So this might be a particular kind of home or something that you'd like in your home. Yeah.
A water slide from my bedroom pool and 3 myberries.
Wow. That's awesome. Dream big. Yeah.
A bay window.
Yeah. Oh, those are awesome.
With like the couch right under it.
Yes.
Those are great. Anyone else? Yeah.
A cabin like in the woods or on the edge of a field.
Oh, that would be awesome. Any other dream homes or dream home features? Yeah. All right. That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So unlike humans, squirrels don't have these big grand dreams on what their home will look like, and they're super adaptable, so they will live pretty much anywhere. The most common habitat for our squirrels, especially in our more forested environments, just Schmeeckle, are called drays. Drays are like squirrel nests. So instead of being organized like with like a squirrel's nest would be built of twigs and organized in kind of a ring shape, our drays are just a big bundle of leaves and twigs and different sticks to build a big like warm mound for the squirrel to go into. We actually have an example of a squirrel dray right above us here. If you can see, there's a big bundle of leaves in the crook of the tree.
Oh, and I have to see what's.
All right, so our next topic that we're going to talk about is how squirrels get food in the winter. Unlike a lot of our other mammals that live here in Wisconsin, squirrels do not hibernate, which means that they are active in the winter months. So how do they possibly get food when our plant life isn't so abundant as it normally would be? As we're walking, I'd like you to talk to a neighbor or a friend about where you think squirrels might get food in the winter, what they might eat. We're gonna head to our, what?
Oh, laying down, yeah, right there.
Oh, there's a squirrel in there too. Oh! He's pretty deep. He's running.
Oh, yeah, in the back, right over there.
They are here. All right, so we're gonna head to our next stop and talk about how squirrels get food in the winter.
We saw a squirrel. Yay.
And you?
All right. So now we're going to talk about how our squirrels get food in the winter. As I mentioned, they are not hibernators, so they are active in the winter. But sometimes they're a little less active in the winter than they would be in the summer or the fall months. And the reason for this is they're trying to conserve their energy so that they don't have to eat as much food as they typically would. In addition, in the fall, when there's a lot of different food available, they will eat a lot so that their fat reserves get bigger, and therefore they'll stay full for longer in the winter months as well. So they also require less food for that reason. But they still do need to eat because they still are awake and active in the winter. And typically they would eat nuts and seeds and different plants. But because those aren't as easily available in the winter, what they do in the fall months is they'll stock up on food and bury it in what are called caches. Each squirrel will have dozens of their own caches hidden in their environment where they'll bury those different nuts and seeds and food. And the reason that they have so many different caches is because of competition. So if another squirrel or another type of animal that eats the same things were to find their hidden supply of food, they wouldn't be out of luck and they'd still have that backup source. Another really interesting thing that squirrels do, which really shows how intelligent they are, is they will divert their competition from their caches. So they'll pretend to bury a nut or a seed in one location when in actuality they're burying them somewhere else so that their competitor gets their attention diverted and looks for them in the wrong place.
How do they remember all those different places?
That's a great question. They have an excellent sense of smell, really great, so they can track where they were in the past. They also have really excellent memories as well, which helps them find those dozens of caches. Do you have a question?
Crows do the exact same trick.
Really? Wow, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Because crows are also competitive, so they pretend to bury it somewhere and then they can fly it somewhere else. But the funniest thing is, they also sometimes leave flakes, tiny little flakes of food there, so that their competitor smells it and still goes it. So they'll find the food, but it isn't enough to feed them.
Wow. It really shows how smart our different animals are. Really cool. So today we're going to practice our squirrel nut hunting abilities with an Easter egg hunt. It's not the same as nuts, but I've hidden a variety of Easter eggs in the area of the amphitheater. There are a dozen eggs, which is 12 eggs hidden around. And unlike our squirrels, we can't use our memory or our sense of smell to find the Easter eggs. We don't have as strong of a sense of smell, and I hid them for you so you don't remember where they are. But we can use a sense that humans excel at, which is our sense of sight. So there are brightly colored eggs, and we're gonna all look for them. And then when you find one, you can bring it back so we can know when we have all 12. The boundaries of the Easter egg hunt, you can stay on this first level of rocks, but we don't want to go up high. You can go around the amphitheater then these two paths go along the side. So, happy hunting!
All right. You gonna find an egg? Ooh.
Alright, great job everyone! I think that we would be excellent squirrels, and we would definitely survive the winter. Alright, so now we're going to head back to the pavilion, and we're going to discuss squirrel communication tactics. As we're walking, listen to any sounds that you might hear. It might be squirrel sounds, it might be bird sounds, it might be something else that you might hear. Now follow me. Alright, so just like humans and a lot of other animals, squirrels have a complex language of their own. And they have a lot of different types of noises that help them communicate different things to one another. So today we're going to play a little game. I'm going to play a squirrel sound, and I want you all to try and guess what you think that squirrel might be trying to say. So I have our first sound. Does anyone have a guess on what that might be? Fighting? Not quite. Anyone else have a guess? Huh?
Yeah. Bird.
In a way, it is connected to
Me!
that. Yes.
He thinks that they're trying to tell us that there are birds around.
Bird.
That's a great guess. Yes, in a way, again. That is a squirrel alarm call. So what they're doing is they're trying to warn other squirrels that there might be a predator or something dangerous nearby. So that could be a large predatory bird. They are communicating that they're scared. So great job. And they are trying to warn the other squirrels, again, so that they can be careful and take shelter. Sometimes it might be a real threat, like that predatory bird or another carnivorous animal that might be a predator to a squirrel. But it also could be something non-threatening, such as a human just walking by. Maybe the squirrel is scared. So it's important to know that sound, so you might know if you're getting in the way of a squirrel habitat or maybe making them scared. So our next sound I'm going to play.
Bird.
Does anyone have a guess? Yeah?
Yeah.
No. Good guess. No. Another good guess. I'll give you a hint. This sound would be heard at a very particular time of year.
Yeah.
Not fall. Yeah. That's a really good guess. Not that though. That's actually a squirrel mating sound. So that's a female squirrel, and she's letting the male squirrels know that she's ready to have squirrel babies. So this would be heard in the late winter, sometimes also in mid to late fall or mid to late summer, because that would be 6 months apart, and a squirrel can have 2 litters of babies a year. And she would want to mate in the late winter so that she'd have her babies in the spring when food is more abundant. And again, in the summer, it's a great time for her to have babies as well because there's a lot of food in the summer and in the fall. All right, I have our next squirrel sound. That one was a little hard to hear, but there's like a tooth chattering noise kind of in the background. Yeah, yes. Fighting there. Yeah, that is a squirrel aggression noise. So they're letting the other squirrels know to back off. Maybe the squirrels are impeding on their personal habitat or their food caches, or maybe their mate that they're trying to get in the late winter. So if you hear that sound, they're likely fighting with one another. They'll also indicate aggression through their tail. They'll communicate that they're angry by flicking their tail really fast back and forth. And sometimes they'll even stamp their feet, kind of similar to a lot of other animals that do that as well. Has anyone here ever seen squirrels chasing one another?
Yes.
Yeah, Yeah, I used to think that they were playing tag and having fun. Unfortunately, that's not the case. They are chasing one another for aggressive reasons as well. Typically, they won't hurt one another or actually fight, but they're typically chasing them away from their habitat or their food supply. But very occasionally, they are playing tag, especially when it's a younger squirrel. They see the older squirrels doing that and they think it looks like fun, so they are playing tag with one another sometimes. All right, I have our last squirrel sound. So, not a flock of seagulls, I know it sounds like it. It's actually a squirrel. Yeah?
Is it like the little tiny squirrels?
Exactly! Yes, good job. That is a baby squirrel crying out for their mom to come back. Maybe they're hungry, or they're lonely, or they're scared, and they just want their mom to return to the nest. So yeah, good job. So those are all of our squirrel sounds. We learned a lot today. We learned about squirrel communication, we learned about squirrel survival tactics and cool squirrel adaptations, specifically of the squirrels here in Schmeeckle. But so what? What is the importance of squirrels and why should we care about the squirrels that live in our neighborhoods, in our cities, and in our forests? Does anyone have a guess on the importance of squirrels? Maybe one reason that they're important for our ecosystems? Yeah? That is a very good answer and very true. Squirrels provide a food source for a lot of predatory species, such as our large birds that we talked about before, or some larger carnivorous mammals such as coyotes or wolves, which we don't have here in Schmeeckle, but we do have large birds in Schmeeckle. And although that might seem kind of sad that our squirrels are getting eaten by other creatures, it's actually incredibly important because they provide a really reliable food source because they're so abundant in our societies and there's so many of them. In addition to being a good, reliable food source for our predatory species, squirrels are also excellent seed dispersers. When they bury those caches that we talked about earlier, sometimes, just like anyone else, they forget where they buried their dozens of caches. So sometimes that allows a nut or a seed to germinate in the ground and grow into a new tree or a new plant, which not only helps that plant to grow and live, but also helps other animals in our ecosystem to get habitat and food supply, and helps our other squirrels as well. And this also helps to aid in biodiversity, which means that there's a lot of different plants and animals in one area, and helps to indicate that the ecosystem is really healthy. They are really important for that reason. And another reason that they're really important for our ecosystem is pest management. So squirrels are omnivores, which means that they eat plants and they also eat bugs. They don't typically eat other animals, but they do eat bugs, which helps to keep our bug levels here in Schmeeckle down at a lower level, which makes our experience on the trails a little more enjoyable. And outside of some of those more ecological roles that they serve, they also are really goofy, fun creatures and provide a source of comic relief if you've had a bad day because they're so reliable and they live pretty much anywhere. You can pretty much guarantee that you're going to see a squirrel every day. So if you're ever just having a bad day and need to get out and see some nature or see some funny squirrel activity, you're pretty much guaranteed to see some. Yeah, so I hope you all learned a lot about squirrels today, and I hope if anyone has had any negative feelings about squirrels, maybe you thought they were a nuisance or annoying, or maybe not so intelligent, I hope you've changed your mind a little bit, and you see that they are incredibly important creatures, complex creatures, and I hope we can find ways to peacefully coexist with them. I'll be around after the program if anyone wants to chat or has any further questions. We have a marketing survey here on the table just to learn about how you found out about this program, which helps us to advertise